Today is a very special day for me. I've been thinking about making this decision for a long time, but still, I've come to it. From today, I decided to change the format of the channel. The theme will remain the same, but the presentation will change. This is due to the fact that legends, myths is such a type of creativity to which it is very difficult to pick up some good pictures or videos. The best tool for this is our imagination. Our fantasy is able to create heroes as we would like to see them. So close your eyes, switch on your imagination and get ready to listen to another story from ancient Albion. In times long forgotten, when the land knew neither kingdoms nor kings and humanity was just beginning its journey through the world, there stretched a vast forest in the northwest of Albion. This forest was older than time itself, and its trees seemed to reach the sky. Amidst the dense thickets, hidden from prying eyes, flowed a river known to locals as the Black River. No one knew its true name, but all feared its waters, which were as dark as a moonless and starless night sky. The legend of the Black River emerged long before people began recording their histories on parchment. Village elders spoke of the river being born from the tears of gods who wept upon seeing evil seep into their world. It was said that the waters were mixed with sorrow, grief, and despair, and that anyone who touched them would be doomed to eternal suffering. Yet, beyond the darkness, the river concealed a great power capable of granting immortality to those who could master it. Many centuries ago, when Albion was still undivided into kingdoms and people lived in harmony with nature, there dwelt a sorceress named Morvana in a secluded corner of this forest. She was regarded as the most powerful enchantress, and rumors of her abilities spread far beyond the forest. Morvana lived in a tower overlooking the Black River, surrounded by books, artifacts, and ancient scrolls. She knew magical secrets beyond even the most learned scholars. But the power she possessed did not bring her happiness. Seeing people waste their lives on trivial concerns and petty conflicts, Morvana grew increasingly disillusioned with the world. She began to shun people, spending long hours pondering the fate of humanity. Her heart grew colder, and instead of the kindness and compassion she once harbored, bitterness and hatred took residence. One of her most feared magics was the ability to see the future. She could peer into the days to come and know what awaited each person. The more she saw, the more convinced she became that humanity was unworthy of the life the gods had given them. People were filled with greed, envy, and hatred, and none seemed to strive for virtue. Morvana decided that the world needed to be cleansed of this filth and that only she could carry out this task. So she turned to the spirits of the forest, ancient beings that had dwelled here long before humanity's arrival. Morvana knew these spirits could control the forces of nature and command life and death. She summoned them to her tower, and the spirits appeared as shadows whispering in an ancient tongue. But when she asked them to destroy humanity, the spirits refused, saying their purpose was to maintain balance in the world, not to destroy it. Enraged by the refusal, Morvana decided to take fate into her own hands. She cast a powerful curse upon the Black River, imprisoning all her hatred and anger within its waters. From that day on, the river became even darker and more dangerous. Anyone who dared approach its banks felt a strange pull and cold emanating from the water. The river became cursed, and those who touched it disappeared without a trace, as if dissolving into its gloomy depths. Years passed, and the curse of the Black River was forgotten. People learned to avoid it, and even those living in nearby villages feared approaching its banks. But one day, on a particularly dark day when clouds hung low over the land, Eldred returned to the Black River, a fisherman's son who had once lost his father in the river's waters. Eldred grew up in poverty and learned about the cruelty and injustice of the world from a young age. But he also knew that there was good in the world and believed that his mission was to fight for justice. His father perished when Eldred was still a child, and from that day on, he vowed to one day free his land from the dark forces tormenting it. When Eldred came of age, he embarked on a journey across Albion, training with the greatest warriors and mags. He fought monsters, saved people from disasters, and grew stronger with each passing day. But in his heart, there always remained one goal: to defeat the darkness lurking in the Black River. Eldred knew that before he could battle the forces of evil, he needed to learn as much as possible about Morvanna and her magic. He visited ancient temples and librarians, consulted sages, and read scrolls stored in hidden archives. Over time, he gathered enough information to understand that Morvanna had used the power of the water spirit to cast her curse. But how to remove it, no one knew. Eldred then turned to one of Albion's oldest priests, living in a remote village at the edge of civilization. This priest was the last of a line of ancient magicians who served the forest spirits. He told Eldred that the power contained in the Black River could only be destroyed when Morvanna's soul found peace. Eldred decided he needed to find a way to communicate with the sorceress's spirit. He set out in search of ancient artifacts capable of summoning the souls of the dead and eventually discovered an ancient amulet hidden deep within an abandoned fortress. This amulet was woven from moonlight and shadows of the night and could call any soul, even those dwelling in the deepest corners of the world of the dead. Eldred returned to the Black River, and at midnight, when the moon was high in the sky, he activated the amulet. From the shadow above the water rose Morvanna's figure, her eyes burning like two embers, and her hair resembling serpents. She immediately recognized Eldred and understood why he had come. "You wish to free the people from my curse?" she whispered, her voice like the rustling of dead leaves. Eldred nodded, holding the amulet in his hands, ready for any turn of events. Morvanna smiled and offered him a deal. She would lift the curse if Eldred agreed to become her servant, dedicating the rest of his life to serving her and her magic. But the knight knew such a path would lead to his own demise and refused. In her rage, Morvanna attacked Eldred, but he was ready for her assault. Using his knowledge and the power of the amulet, he managed to keep the sorceress's spirit at bay. Then Morvanna changed her tactic and tried to awaken doubts and fears within him, showing him horrors she could inflict upon his loved ones. But Eldred was unwavering. He knew that the only way to defeat Morvanna was to free her from herself. He convinced her that the curse she had placed on the river was destroying her own soul, turning it into a shadow of its former power. Morvanna gazed at Eldred for a long time, and for a moment, sadness flickered in her eyes. She realized she would never find peace if she did not let go of her hatred. With a heavy heart, she agreed to lift the curse, but warned that her power could not simply disappear, it had to be transferred to someone else. Eldred knew that this offer meant he would have to take on part of Morvanna's dark magic. But he was willing to do so for the sake of saving his people. Using the amulet, he performed a ritual during which Morvanna transferred her magic to him, and then her spirit dispersed like mist in the morning wind. The Black River began to cleanse before his eyes. The dark waters gradually became clear, and the curse that had hung over the forest vanished. People who had long avoided these places began to return, and life once again thrived along the riverbanks. But the price Eldred paid was high. With the power of Morvanna, he became the bearer of her curse. Although the river was freed from darkness, a part of that same hatred that had once consumed Morvanna took residence in Eldred's heart. He began to feel the darkness slowly taking over his soul. Eldred knew he could not fight this evil for long. He left his village and went into solitude so that no one would witness his transformation. He hoped that somewhere in distant lands, he could find a way to rid himself of the curse, but his path was fraught with difficulties. He met sages, sought answers in ancient books, and fought monsters that tried to awaken the darkness in his heart. But with each passing day, he felt his strength waning. The darkness consumed him, and soon Eldred realized that his time was running out. One day, in the lonely mountains of eastern Albion, Eldred encountered an ancient hermit who told him about the existence of a sacred artifact capable of cleansing any soul. This artifact was kept in an inaccessible fortress guarded by the ghosts of long-departed warriors. Eldred decided that this was his last chance. He journeyed to the fortress and, overcoming all dangers, found the artifact, a sword forged from pure light. But as soon as he took it in his hands, the darkness living in his heart began to fight for its survival. Eldred knew that if he did not prevail, he would become a new embodiment of evil, haunting his people. With the strength of his will, he defeated the darkness, and the sword purified his soul. Eldred realized that he would no longer be the person he once was. He decided to return to his village to pass on his experience and knowledge to those who needed it. Eldred returned home, a changed man. His presence inspired many, and the story of his sacrifice became a legend that passed from generation to generation. The Black River remained cleansed, and the darkness of Morvanna's curse was now only a part of history. Eldred's tale taught people about courage, sacrifice, and the struggle between light and darkness. His story became a beacon of hope, reminding everyone that even in the face of the deepest shadows, light could prevail if one had the courage to confront their own demons. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe to the channel to always stay with us. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. And remember your history. Who knows what might be a legend and what not?